Hi guys, hope you're doing good, and today I'm going to be doing another Defending of episode, and in this one I'm going to be talking about Testament and Souls of Black. I've done a couple of these in the past. I've only done two of these in the past. This is going to be the third one, and I'm looking to do a lot more of these in the future instead of just doing one and then not doing another one. But I'm looking to do more of these in the future, and I thought I'd, kind of restart the series per se with this album. And yeah, I could have chose other albums by this band, especially I could have picked Low or Demonic, as those albums tend to get more hate than this. But I feel this one is just completely overlooked and almost gets ignored. So in a way, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. Instead of defending an album that gets hate, I'm just going to be defending an album that just gets completely overlooked. And, I'm just going to be trying to persuade you to give this album another chance with this video. Now, without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Before we get into it, I just want to go through some quick information about the album and some cool facts. So the album was released on the 9th of October 1990, a year after the successful Practice What You Preach. This is their fourth album, released on Atlantic and Megaforce Records. The sound of the album is their normal regular thrash metal, but with this one they included more technical, progressive influences that started on Practice What You Preach. The songs on the album were musically reworked and lyrically rewritten, as they were demoed back in the late 80s, but they were never officially released. They made this album solely just to have a new album out at the time, as they were being featured on the Clash of the Titans tour during the summer. So this album is a little bit rushed. The album entered the Billboard 200 album charts on the 3rd of November, peaking at number 73, which at the time was their highest chart position, and remained on the chart for 8 weeks. This album is 10 songs and just over 39 minutes long. Now we're going to have a look at the reasons why this album might get overlooked / gets a bit of hate. And for a lot of these reasons, I've got to credit Reddit, especially the thrash metal Reddit user. One day I went to Lidl. This is quite a funny name. And he basically, or they basically said about what people think about Souls of Black. So here's what some of the people said. It was rushed. Eric Peterson has stated this in multiple interviews, that the album was rushed. The band rarely play any songs from this album. Minus the title track, they don't really play anything of it anymore. So maybe even they don't like this album that much. The poor production quality compared to the other albums didn't match the success of Practice What You Preach, which in a way kind of not true, because it actually done better than Practice What You Preach. A slightly more accessible sound. Tracks not as memorable or as good as on previous albums. Maybe even some of the tracks sounding a little incomplete. They played it safe on this album. And the last one is that it's boring, which, to be honest, I don't think it's boring, but somebody on Reddit said that it's a bit boring, this album, so I don't know. However, I must state, for the most part, a lot of people said that it was overlooked and underrated more than it was a bad album. Next up, we're going to go through the track listing, and again, I'm going to show the album, and there's the back. This is my dad's OG vinyl. So yeah, the 10 tracks, it begins with Beginning of the End, which is more of just an intro really, like a 30-second intro. And then it goes straight into Facing the Sky, which is a really cool, groovy, kind of thrashy song. Falling Fast, which has got an amazing guitar solo in it. Then the title track, Souls of Black, which is the one that is most known on this album. Then it goes into Absence of Light, Love to Hate, which has got a cool kind of thrashy riff in that. And then on side 2 we've got Malpractice. I love that song, that's probably one of my favourites on the album. One Man's Fate, it's another great song. Then the ballad The Legacy, which is another well-known one off MTV. Really good ballad. Probably not my favourite, one of my favourites by them, but still a decent ballad. And then ends with 7 Days of May, which, to be honest, has got my personal favourite Alex Skolnick solo on the whole album. It's just absolutely amazing, that solo. Now to finish up, I'm going to go through my final thoughts and my own feelings about this album. It's definitely overlooked and an underrated gem, in my opinion. I can totally understand why people wouldn't find this album to be as great as previous ones. The songs are, to be fair, not as memorable as some of their other stuff, and it's definitely got that more accessible sound. But despite that, I still think the album is great. It is, it's just a great album. It's a great, solid album. Yeah, you can say that some of the songs might be a bit rushed, the production's not that great, but I think the production's really good. It kind of makes it have that sort of New Order guitar tone, which I really like. I love that album. It's probably my favourite album by them. You can definitely, this definitely would have been a good album to put before Practice What You Preach and then have Practice What You Preach. I think if it had been that way round, I don't think this album would get overlooked as much as it does. I personally think that this album is better than Practice What You Preach. Quite a lot of people in the Reddit group actually said that as well. I'll leave a link in the description to that if you want to have a look at what people said about it. Yeah, this album is just filled with solid songs, great catchy riffs, and some of Alex Skolnick's best guitar solos, like I've mentioned, 7 Days of May, Malpractice, Absence of Light, Falling Fast, just to name a few. Just absolutely outrageous guitar solos. I think any guitar nerd would enjoy this album just for that alone. And also Chuck Billy's vocals on here are, as always, fantastic. And yeah, I just think it's a solid album, and definitely I would urge you to give it a try. If you don't rate it or you've never listened to it, you just have to give it another go, because it's just a very enjoyable listen, and for me personally it would be very high on my Testament discography ranking. So yeah, for these reasons alone, I think this album just does not deserve to get forgotten. So that was my video talking about Souls of Black. I'd love to know what you think of this album, whether you agree it's overlooked and underrated, or whether you dislike it. And if you don't like it or you don't think it's that great, please tell me why in the comments, because I'd love to know, is it something that I've mentioned in this video, or is it for a different reason? And also, while you're at it, let me know what your favourite Testament album is. Mine is probably The New Order, so that would be cool to get a good conversation going in the comments. If you like this video, let me know what other albums I should do. If you'd like to see any more of these kind of style videos, as I said, I want to do more in the future. So yeah, let me know if there's any albums that you think I should cover in this series. And yeah, if you got this far, thanks ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until the next time, keep it metal.